Are you ready to explore exciting careers in neuroscience and neurotechnologies? Then join me, your podcast host, Dr. Milena Korostenskaja, or simply Dr. K, and my amazing guests on the Neurocareers Doing the Impossible podcast. Discover what it takes to turn the impossible into reality. Tune in now to a thrilling episode number 96. Dear listeners, in this episode of Neurocareers Doing the Impossible podcast, we sit down with Sheila Thelen, a trailblazer in the world of vestibular training. From athletes to military personnel, people with autism and sensory needs, to rehabilitation and aging, Sheila's innovative vestibular training products, including her patented fly system and pending rail system, are revolutionizing how we approach balance and movement. Join us as Sheila shares her mission to change the world with cutting-edge technology and a passion for helping people regain control of their bodies in powerful ways. Sheila also shares her valuable story and career advice. Welcome, Sheila. It's a great pleasure to have you today on our podcast.
Wow, what an introduction. Oh my goodness, I'm tearing up here. So thank you for having me. It's such an honor to do these projects. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Sheila. And can you please introduce yourself and also let our listeners know where you are joining us from what part of the world?
So I'm Sheila Thelen, and I'm the president of Vestibular Training Services. And this is my baby. That I've been doing this forever. I'm based out of Minneapolis, Minnesota. We're just like a northern suburb of that in Schaefer, Minnesota. So I live on a lake. It's very Minnesota. It's cold. It snows. I have big dogs. It's always kind of an adventure. I kind of run in a chaos environment and I love it. I'm a master rated figure skating coach is where all of this comes from. And when you really look at the product, it looks very figure skating like, and that's where all of this comes from and where all of the athletes have really developed out of, that we've really put together these concepts of how we can move from the sports world into the general public and applying sports training tools to the general public. And this project is just an obsession. Like, I'm just obsessed by it. And I am so grateful for your time and everyone for joining in with us.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, Sheila, for your introduction. And I would like, of course, to explore this work that you do in all the details. You mentioned living in Minneapolis, in Minnesota, and you have this property and the dog, so which sounds absolutely amazing. If we would come to visit Minneapolis, what would be one thing that we just must see? What would that be?
Well, for me, of course, it's all of the lakes. We have over 10,000 lakes. So come in the winter when it's snowy and cold and frozen, and then you could skate on the frozen ice. It would be a part of a huge adventure, that'd be sure.
Yes, that's amazing. And what about food? What should we try?
Oh boy, we got a lot of food here. So Minnesota, we've really had a lot of people move here from around the world and stuff. So we really have a diverse food. So I'm really fond of like Thai food and Indian food. I'm very fond of that. Yet Minnesota's famous for something called a hot dish, which is just kind of like a bunch of layers of food and some tater tots on the top and some cream of mushroom soup. And it's a thing here in Minnesota, My mom.
I would like to try it one day. Definitely hot dish. That sounds amazing. Sounds amazing. And you mentioned that you can skate on the lakes. And I think this might have something to do with the work that you are doing. Yes? Helping people who are doing figure skating and being a figure skating coach. So how did all this develop?
So my whole life has been figure skating. I started as a child and I skated and I went into coaching and after I was at university and and I've just always kind of come back to an ice arena. And about 28 years ago, we started a skating harness company. And you can kind of see it in the background here. I stuck one in my house, So like just like right, we've got just a skating harness right there. So I owned this harness company and it just spun the children and flew them up into the air. It looks kind of NASA like where we spin the children and float them up into the air. So it could be very figure skating training. And how this whole thing started is about 10 years ago. I was standing at the US Olympic Committee. They had a big event, and I was at the bar at the hotel, and so many coaches are around us. And some of the coaches were talking about their athletes getting dizzy or confused on the field or running the wrong direction or struggling in school. And I sat there thinking, with my adult beverage in my hand, huh, figure skaters don't do that. Figure skaters never get dizzy. Figure skaters are super intelligent, like really high end academic children. Oh, figure skaters never get disoriented. We know exactly where we're going, even in a stadium, And so, like, I just kind of looked at all these other coaches like, not a problem that I have. And I sat there thinking, well, what am I doing differently than all these other sports? And the answer came back to spinning. So, figure skaters spin a lot, and we spin even differently than ballet. We're often compared to ballet, but in the end, it's a very different movement of spinning. So, I started really kind of that little voice in your head, and you kind of like had that little idea like, wait a second, we're doing something special. What? Oh, well, it's spinning. Well, how would that apply? And how could I change? And how could I help more athletes? And how could I help more children? And how could I help that aging population? And the thoughts just kept going to the point, I'm going to kindly say obsession. My family is so sick of me. My family and friends are like, stop talking about this, because I just couldn't stop talking about it. I couldn't stop thinking about it. And it just became this obsession of like, what are we doing differently? And so I come back to the vestibular system. And as we talk about neuro and we talk about careers, we talk about what's going on in the brain. So basically, about 5 years ago, I'm like, we're doing this. We're going to launch a whole new company. Although the irony is, we launched in 2020. What a terrible time to launch a company in the middle of a pandemic. Yeah, it was a terrible, terrible business idea. And we went with it and we ran hard in those, especially those 2 years. The COVID was such a big thing here, especially in the States, but worldwide. And so we joke that we're an old company because we really are 28 years old, but the expansion really happened about 4 years ago. That's a lot.
Yes, yes. Thank you for this introduction. And I would like to learn a little bit more about spinning. Like you said, for example, for figure skating, there is one type of spinning. Yes, ballet has another type of spinning. So, what is that type of spinning? What are the differences? How much do you really need to spin? And you said that you already had certain device. Yes, that help learn to spin. So, what are those devices? What is currently available to teach people spin? So, can you give us this basic introduction so that we would better understand the situation around the topic?
So, spinning, basically, how we did it is we created a platform. It looks like an electric lazy Susan. So, it spins, it turns both directions. It can take a heavier weight. We engineered it to basically 400 pounds, like you can put someone really big on it. Because we, in our mind, had football players on it, like and heavy adults, so we wanted to go with a heavier weight option. We created two scenarios. One that we could also lift them up with pulleys so they could continue to spin in the sky, which also was wonderful for our military, chaos jobs, police, fire, military, athletes, soccer players, baseball players, people that had more chaos going around them. was very successful for the sports world for that. Yet at the same time, we also came up with what felt safe and secure. So we created a rail system so you could hold on while it spun you. So for my aging population and Parkinson's and Alzheimer's and concussions, like I started to see so many people with concussions. So we had that rail system so you could just hold on to it and then it gently spun you. And then it turned into a game of how little could I spin you and still see success. Because the kids, oh my goodness, when you see those videos, it looks like a tilt-a-whirl and it looks crazy. And the kids are so good at it, but the adults aren't. The adults just, this is so hard for them. So, like, there's a very fine line between the kids and the adults and the skills that can be achieved. So, that rail system just felt so safe and sturdy, and you could hold on, and it wasn't the terrifying thing that the kids were doing. So it really expanded the product market in the fact that we could really help more people in a very safe and gentle. And I keep using the word gentle over and over again because it wasn't scary like what the kids could do.
Yes, thank you. And can you explain what happens with our vestibular system when we're spinning? And how can we help vestibular system to manage that spinning process better for us?
It's hard. It takes training. I always compare it to weightlifting. Like you had this when you started out on bench press or leg press, you started very gently and then you learned the technique and then you started adding more weight. Same story with us. We start very gently and then we just started adding more speed. So your vestibular system are these three semicircular canals that are right inside your ear. So here's my eardrum and it rolls into this vestibular system. And then the vestibular rolls out into the cochlea. You see a lot of children with cochlea implants that are deaf. So the vestibular system, the word comes from vestibule. So the vestibule is the entry to your home. The vestibular is the entry to your brain. And what it is it really is how your eyes and ears process the information back into your brain. So it's connected to 25 major functions, including abstract thinking, which I found fascinating when we started researching the vestibular. Yet, the four we really focus on within our company is balance, how fast your brain can process the information coming in, spatial, so dizziness and confusion of what's going on around you. And I think of my mom driving, okay, but spatial. And then the fourth big thing is sleep. Interesting enough, as we look at all of us, anyone with a brain, if I can improve your balance or it can help your brain process faster or help you not be dizzy in the space around you and help you sleep better, boy, that seems like a really nice improvement in a lot of people's lives. But as we talk about vestibular and really understanding where it is, it's just kind of right inside both my ears. And with it, it's kind of got a gooey substance that rolls through it. So it's a gooey substance. And when people have vertigo, what it really is a pooling of the gel on one side and where the other canals go dry. And that's what vertigo feels like. And it's terrifying. I have several friends that have vertigo episodes, and it's really debilitating and worrisome because you're just terrified to have that happen again. So by nature, you don't want to move your head because you're afraid of that. But part of not moving your head is what's causing it. So we really talk about children and ADHD and keeping their heads moving and keeping that gel moving through that vestibular system is really, really key. So we kick in some centrifugal force. That spinning motion really gets that gel moving and it also really disperses, and so that's just some gentle spinning and centrifugal. In addition, can really kind of kick back in some of those crystals on the outside that have a tendency to fall down into the canals. So many people talk about, oh, like I've got crystal problems. Okay, a little bit of gentle spinning, we can hopefully get those back in position so that you stop suffering. So really lots of little pieces really are attached to that vestibular system.
Yep. Thank you. And can you tell us, please, what is currently available? What is the status of what's already developed to help people develop that vestibular system or to have less problems?
So there's over 52,000 papers already published on vestibular. So I always encourage people go to, pubmed.gov here in the States, and there's 52,000 papers already waiting for you, especially if you want to specifically search like vestibular plus autism, vestibular plus aging, vestibular plus fall prevention, vestibular plus sports. You really can really search that to really kind of look at especially the group you're looking at. We are really leading the way. We do have a patent on our fly system and a patent pending on that rail system. We really are taking the sports technology world and bringing it to the general public. So I'm going to tell you, we're really leading the way. And it's such an honor to get to work with so many different communities throughout the world. We're honored to have our gear. We even have gear in Mumbai. I just think that's so exciting. We're with a special school in Mumbai working with children with truly profound autism. And I'm honored to have projects like this worldwide.
Mhm. Thank you. And how is your system different from the existing systems in this field?
So, if I were to compare it in the industry, when we look at an epile maneuver where you lay on your back and they gently turn your head and really the whole diagnosis world, I think there's amazing work. Oh my goodness, being done in the diagnosis world. We're not that. We're not a diagnosis group at all. We're an intervention. So once you have your diagnosis, whether it's vestibular or sleep problems or balance problems, I work with a ton of ADHD kids. Like, I really have had some really good results with that group. I would call us a standing, moving epile maneuver is what I would call it. So not laying on your back and having the head turn. This is where we would be standing up and it's a whole body epile maneuver is the best way I would compare it in comparative systems in the industry.
Mhm. I remember, at least from what I saw, for example, for people who are flying in space, yes, there are systems and they're showing people just spinning and spinning and spinning and spinning and spinning. So these are the videos that are usually shown demonstrating the training that they receive. So means that some technologies already exist, not only laying down, correct? So, how your approach is different from those approaches?
So there are some really cool NASA, like they look like
Yes.
NASA machines that you sit in. So different in the fact that standing and learning is different than sitting and learning. And that goes actually back to my buddies over at NeuroTracker. One of their lead scientists, Dr. Lee Sidebottom, who is brilliant, talked about how they have results of their moving ball game that you keep track of. They have two different scores: sitting down and doing NeuroTracker and standing up and doing NeuroTracker. Two totally different scores because there is a brain load, of course, in standing. So for sure, out there is the really cool NASA super twisting machines that personally I think look terrifying. I've seen them. They're a $500,000. They're amazing, but they look terrifying, especially to the general public. So we're excited that our products are just a little more gentle than that, although it can be just as extreme, especially with that fly system in my kids. And actually, one of my famous videos of the girl just going crazy fast in midair, like 5.5 turns per second. She's so fast, and she comes down onto the platter, looks at the camera, and goes, "I'm not dizzy." And even the head neuroscientist at the time over at NASA called me and he's like, "How'd you do that?" And the answer, of course, is training. Like, of course, the athlete had trained with me for quite a while, and she could really achieve those NASA speeds in our gear. Yet at the same time, I have videos of people doing one turn because really, that's their ability level when they start with me, that they're aging and they have Parkinson's and there's really some neurological issues. So we can start out so gentle and not flip them all over the place like NASA. We really can be the more gentle version of the super NASA super flipper.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And how long does it take to get to that level of super spinning that you just talked about? What does it take to get to that level?
So people start out slow, of course. And I go back to always comparing it to weightlifting. Like we got to start slow and build our way up. And so most people, the results last for people, it's instant. The first time you work with me, holy cow, you can feel it. Like you can feel your brain, which is the weirdest statement ever, but you can really feel your brain after working with me. The results last about 3 days. So most people work with me 2 or 3 days a week. My athletes doing it 6, 7 days a week. My kids in Russia tell me they were doing it 3 times a day because the Russians have figured this out too in creating faster brains and faster athletes. But the magic is at the 6 to 8 week mark, it really sticks. So at 6 to 8 weeks, as I speed you up and speed you up and speed you up and speed you up, the dizziness really starts to go away to the point I'm fascinated that as I speed them up, they don't get dizzy. And to be honest, even I'm flabbergasted at what some of these athletes can create. But for the first 6 weeks, I do have to be gentle. I can't overspin them. The goal is not to vomit. Don't do that. And it's easy that a lot of people are really sensitive to this. So the really sensitive people to that spinning motion really need to work up gently to these speeds and speed up and be able to go a little bit longer. But I'm fascinated that I really gently can get people to really improve and have it stick.
Do you think you can show us maybe a video that we can all see how it all looks?
Oh, there we go. Here we go. So this is actually one of my athletes, and look at the craziness of this. It's so impressive what this girl can do. So there's that fly motion, and there's that she's got a midline cross and axis and balance and proprioception. And I had some people on LinkedIn be like, prove she's not dizzy. And I'm like, I can do that. So at the end, at the bottom of the screen, I'm going to throw one of these heat goat sticks at her and call a color on it. So she has to decision make the color that I call. So, like, watch this. This is so impressive. Here, hold on. So the girl could show she wasn't dizzy, catch the Hiko stick, the three-pronged Hiko stick, and the color green as I called it out. And I'm even going to say, of course, it's a bad throw. So look at how fast she was. It was just so impressive that she's not dizzy from that. We've really trained the dizzy out of her. But as we look at that fly motion, of course, I want to go back and talk about this rail system and how gently I can still see success. This is actually, I'm at the Detroit Pistons Performance Center, actually working with some retired NBA players in this. And in the video, oh my goodness, he's like 6'9". I'm 4'10". I'm so short, but it really is kind of an entertaining video. But you can see how slow he's turning compared to the girl. Like this is like he's just barely turning. And my face looks kind of not impressed as I'm watching him turn so slowly. But he's still going to improve his balance in working with us. So he can start out holding on and gently cross. And these are makes it just even easier for more and more of the population to use the product, which really became a joy to us in how many people really could use the product. And my favorite example, of course, on that rail system is actually my mom. Yeah, like I put my 78-year-old mom on there, and with the goal being that she could do still some international travel and boat cruises, and she still wanted to go see Europe and cobblestones and churches and stairs and not fall. And so we talk about fall prevention and really I'm going to add into my mom's driving skills, okay, have significantly improved since she's been spinning with me once a week, twice a week, 5 minutes. She's in, she's out, she spins, she moves on. And boy, the improvement that she's had in less fear and more activity and those little pieces of balance that make her world safer and those around her safer, especially with their driving skills. So I'm super honored to be working with this aging population. And you can just kind of see in my hand too, I've got like the control box. It's really easy gear to run. I can just set the speed, the direction, step on the pedal. It's that easy. I actually have several 8-year-olds that run the gear for their parents. But these are the little pieces that we're just so proud of in how many people we can work with.
That's absolutely amazing. Very impressive. I also have mom, and I also would love her to have a better balance and be able to move more, explore things more, go outside, do things. So I think that's absolutely amazing application of your technology. Thank you for doing this. Maybe you can share some stories, some case studies where people really benefited from what you did.
So I have gone crazy on this. And really the goal was to see how many people we could put on the gear and still see great outcomes. And so I'm going to screen share again. And then I'm even going to share some of the data. So we teamed up. We team up a lot. Like that's actually kind of my magical skills is I really team up with a lot of different companies to really have all of us come forward and succeed. I always talk about we're a great company, but when you combine us with 5 other companies, the 5 companies are amazing. So this is where we really feel like we can make impact. So I'm going to click screen share again. And I have the story of a young man who was in a motorcycle accident and he has over a 12-year-old traumatic brain injury. And he's still probably 50% paralyzed on his right side. And he came in with a walking balance stick to my training room. And I'm gonna say too, it's kind of like dead shark eyes. You can tell he's been to so many therapists and so many people. And he'd seen my athletes do the fly motion. So we started out with just 2 platter turns and then we did the fly. But we pre and post tested his balance on a company called Body Track. So BODITRAK, a fantastic center pressure mat. It's flat, it doesn't move, they just stand on it. And we did 10-second size open, 10-second size closed, spun him, and then post tested 10-second size open, 10-second size closed. So let me just screen share because this is really where I talk about how little we can do and how we can have profound changes in people's lives. And this is what we're so excited about. So I'm going to just start out with the video because he's amazing on the gear. And he talks about it was the most fun he'd had in 12 years since the brain injury. So you can see it's not real fast. I get him up. We have someone lifting him. That's his mom in the background filming. Midline cross to get both sides of his brain active. And you can see this gentle fly spinning, but he's just having a blast. It's so much fun. He's having a wonderful time. His family is so impressed. But midline cross, axis, balance, proprioception, following directions in the chaos. But here's the big move. He comes down on his paralyzed side without realizing it. So here he comes down on that right leg, right leg, right leg, right leg, left leg. There we go. So you can see he came down on his bad leg without realizing it. And we were like, did you notice? And he's like, what? He was amazed that he had done that because that isn't he wouldn't plant on that right leg, he'd plant on his left leg at all times. So we were really exciting to see his data. So one of the things I love about this balance mat, as I'm sharing the data here, is that it's really easy to understand this data, which I recently had an MRI of my shoulder, and wow, I couldn't understand what the doctor was talking about at all. It was very confusing because I can't read an MRI. Yet at this is very easy to understand. So I'm going to start out with the head sway. Here's his pre-test 10-second size open on the right side of the screen. On the left side of the screen is his post-test, eyes open. So 10 seconds, pre-test, eyes open. He starts out with a little bit of head sway. So a 0.02 head sway. The goal is 0. And in the post-test, we hit that. We hit that 0 head sway. So his head isn't moving as he's just standing there with his eyes open. He started out with 5.71 inches of foot movement. And in the post test of only 5 minutes of spinning with me, he drops down to 3.85. I'm like, wow, that's a big difference in 10 seconds. But as we look at the bullseye, the red dot is actually his head, and his balance is moving away from center in the pretest. And you can see we've got 3 circles of the bullseye that in the post test drop down to only 2 circles of the bullseye, with the head starting to come to center. And the fact that I'm centering his brain from that nice vestibular spinning, but an exponential improvement in dropping that 3rd circle and bringing that head to center. And we were just blown away by this. Like, we're like, oh, what an incredible improvement. But when we looked at his pre and post test, eyes closed, same thing. Pre test is here on the right side, post test is here on the left side. We saw significant changes in the eyes closed motion. So in the 10 seconds eyes closed, he started out with a 0.12 head sway, and he drops down in a significant amount down to 0.01. Phenomenal with the eyes closed. And that's hard. That's hard for everyone in the population, much less with the brain injury. And remember, this is a 12-year-old brain injury that we're showing improvements on. He went from 10.03 inches of foot movement in that 10 seconds, eyes closed, down to 4.32. Wow. And in the bullseye, you can see he's kind of zigzaggy to the point I, in the pre-test, spotted him because I was really concerned he was going to fall with his eyes closed. And in the post-test, you can see it all quiet down. But when we really looked at the data, this is the exciting part. On the right side of the screen is his pre-test eyes open. And on the left side is his post-test eyes closed. He left with better balance with his eyes closed than when he rolled in with his eyes open. And I am just so excited about this. Even in a 12-year-old brain injury, we showed improvements in 5 minutes of gentle spinning. So these are the projects that have come forward. And we're so excited about how that applies to everyone, yet especially police and fire and soldiers and athletes. The world of children and autism and ADHD children, Parkinson's, amputees, all of these people can benefit from improving their vestibular system.
Yeah, thank you so much, Sheila. Very impressive. Does the system also indicate the significance of the results? Because you were saying that the results are significant, that the changes are significant. Are you talking about statistical significance? How do you evaluate it?
Mathematically, of course, in the math of that, like the 80% improvement. Yeah, well, like the percentages of improvement are always exciting to see. Yet when we talk about real life, like I talk about like outside, you've left from me. Um, as he left the building, this young man left without, he carried his balance stick under his arm and walked out of the building without his balance stick that day. And he left with bright, shiny, happy eyes and couldn't wait to work with me again. And these are the little pieces that, that I care about, like real people's lives and real ways that they go off into the world and feel better in a way that they haven't felt before. One of my other projects here in the Twin Cities, I've been working with some police where they shoot first at the range. So with their guns, they shoot first. They come and work with me, same exact scenario. Balance mat, spin, balance mat. They all improve their balance. And then they go back and reshoot at the range. And so far, and I just don't even think this is a real number, but so far, 100% of my police have significantly improved their shooting scores in the post shoot of having worked with me. And my favorite story, of course, is the young officer that had been trying to pass his SWAT test that he hadn't been able to pass. He could pass the state standard easily, but when they backed him up the extra 15, 20 feet, he couldn't pass it. And the day he worked with me, he passed his SWAT standard. So I talk about this, and I'm really honored in the fact that in the world of real life, beyond sports and beyond our general lives, but police with more alertness and better draw and better balance, faster processing. These are all the pieces that are exciting in the real world of how we can improve those around us. Although I have another great video. Can I screen share one more time? Oh my
Yes,
goodness. I've
absolutely,
so
absolutely.
many good
Please do.
videos. I have to control myself. But I have this wonderful doctor that I work with that is over in Ohio, Dr. Andy Belts. He was using my gear, and he's really a great story. But about 12 seconds into the video, it pans to the left and it shows his son, Liam, running the gear, who's only like 8 years old. So the 8 year old's running the gear. Andy's on it and he's spinning. And he came to me originally because he's a dizzy balance specialist that was dizzy himself. And he wanted to be able to go on rides with his kids at amusement parks. So that's how the original conversation started, is him wanting to do that. And so when he first started with me, he was very dizzy. And so here's just a quick video from him, and he's fascinating. It's so fascinating to see his improvements in his application. And it's fun to see doctors improve their balance. It's very fun.
Yes, yes, absolutely. It looks absolutely amazing. You also noted the difference between balance when we have our eyes open versus when we have our eyes closed. What is the difference between those two conditions and why that difference exists? Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
You don't realize it till it's a problem. Is my favorite way to describe so many balance issues. Like, stand there with your eyes closed, stand there on one foot with your eyes closed. It's hard. Like, it's really, really hard. And the older we get, the harder it gets, and the more sensory issues that really become an issue, especially as we add in concussions. Like, oh my goodness, my poor concussion group. Although, here's an interesting data piece on that. How you should score on the balance mat is you should score great with your eyes open and a lesser score with your eyes closed. And I think we all pretty much agree with that. That's how you should score. Although I have a large number of people that on the bounce mat score backwards. So they score not so great with their eyes open and fantastic with their eyes closed. And I'm like, how is that possible? So I started really delving into these groups that really had what I called backwards scoring. And really, that group was one of two things. And it's weird that I put them in the same category, but their data looks the same, is that they're people with concussions or pretty severe ADHD. And to put those in the same category seems weird, but ADHD and a brain injury really look the same in the backwards scoring. And really, when I've talked to so many professionals, the consensus really was that their brain was exhausted from eyes open, that their brains were over processing to the point of it was affecting their eyes just over processed so much. And when you really think about concussions and ADHD, that's what those people complain all the time about, like their eyes just overwhelm them. Whereas the general population isn't in that struggle. So the fascinating part is once I gently spin them, the scores reset. So even after just 5 minutes of working with me, both groups, the ADHD and the concussions, now score far more normally of a good score eyes open and a lesser score eyes closed. So it's fascinating, and you have this whole new world of data and applying it and really looking at different populations. That's been fascinating to us. So we did team up. We are teaming up. We have a chief medical officer, Dr. Daniel O'Brien, has joined our company. We also have Dr. Erica Olson, who is our PhD research coordinator, who is teaming up with a lot of our different clients around the world to be writing research papers. She doesn't write them for you, but she'll help you with your IRBs and she'll help you with your protocols. And we're really honored to have really an amazing leadership team within our company that help these projects move even faster forward.
Yes, absolutely. So I see that you are even now doing research around your product and how it affects people that you are working with.
And oh my gosh, it's so overwhelming to me too. People are like, let's do research. I'm like, why don't you talk to Dr. Olson? It's overwhelming to me. Like, oh, it's so much work and it's so much responsibility. And it's really exciting to see these projects come forward.
Yes, absolutely. And my question is, how did you design this device? So, what skills did you need to have to actually design and create the actual device?
So I've had a lot of help. Okay. I talk about I throw out some crazy ideas and people help me. And I'm truly honored by that. So everything's manufactured here in the United States. The body harnesses are made here in Minneapolis. The flying rigging system is also designed here in Minneapolis and manufactured here. My electric spinner portion and the rail system is manufactured out of Delaware. And I'm honored that I actually have military veterans involved in that project. So I've hired some military vets to help me build out exactly my ideas in my head, and they've been brilliant to work with. And the funny thing is, when we first designed the electric spinner, I think they put a jet engine in it. Like literally, like how fast can we make this thing go? And at one point, I'm like, how slow can we make this thing go? And they were like, why? And it turned into like the transformation in the company, like let's go fast and let's go slow. And it just seemed weird within the same company. So yeah, I've really had a lot of people pitch in and I'm grateful. I think I've had a lot of help even in the professional sense that I've really networked. I've gone crazy on LinkedIn and I've met some of the most amazing people that I didn't even know were out there, but have really mentored me and helped me and egged me on. The hell, I always have to always add the story in that when I first expanded the company, I did have several people be like, don't do it. Don't expand your company. Just stay in figure skating, stay in sports. You're number one. Why would you do more? Why? Why? No, just stay in your lane. And then I had a whole batch of people that were like, no, no, you should go help more people. And you could help the general public. And it'll be hard, but it'll be worth it. And I have to say, I still hear both voices in my head, especially on the hard days. I'm like, why did I do this? This is so much work. Yet at the same time, I have loved the expansion of, I mean, I work with people that are amputees and I improve their balance and they leave with their service dogs. And I'm just like, that was the best time ever. I just had the best time, so I look at all of the people that I've been able to help even just in these last 4 years. Although this is where it's exciting to be on your podcast, is I talk all the time about 1,000 units. That's great. 1,000 units go out the door. Yay, go us. Yet at the same time, 1 unit in the hands of a really good specialist, whether the specialist is a PT or OT or MD or concussion specialist or they're a PTSD specialist or an autism, like what is your specialty? 1 unit with the hands of one specialist could help 1,000 people. And that's what we talk about. We talk about outcomes. We talk about success. We talk about helping so many people. And that 1 unit can help 1,000 people. So getting 8 units out with 8 specialists that can really apply it to their specialty means something to us. And this is what we care about. to the point of obsession. You can tell as I keep talking. I'm just obsessed with these outcomes.
What was the most challenging part of developing this product for you and how you overcame that challenge?
The hardest part was getting, I think, people with vertigo on because they were terrified, because they really don't want to have another episode. It was interesting trying to find more people with like Parkinson's and fuzzy COVID or fuzzy chemo. There's an old joke here in the States about like, oh, I'm going to kidnap you. I've got a van and candy and a puppy and a you like I'm going to kidnap you, like weird. It's a weird American joke. Like that makes no sense, but it's kind of a joke about I'm going to kidnap you. I see people that are amputees at like Home Depot, and I'm like, here's my business card. Come work with me. Like I got puppies. No, I don't. But I joke that like trying to find as many people in the population that were extraordinary or struggling really became a challenge and something that we've really enjoyed the expanse of this project. But it's been hard. It's been hard to find people, that can I come spin you? But like, will you come to my training room? Can I spin you? And they were like, what? So I do joke that I carry a vestibular little, oh geez, like the little demo piece in my purse so I can explain it to people in public. Like, here's what I want to do for you. I want to work on your vestibular system. Here's where it is. So getting people to trust me. And then once they trusted me, then it was really fun because then they're like, oh, would you work with my brother? He's had a concussion and my nephew has autism. And suddenly the group grew and grew and grew to the point we can't keep up with it. We really have worked hard to just be a manufacturer that trains specialists to apply to their specialty because we can't keep up. Like it's so many people have really found me. Even on these podcasts, I have people call me all the time, like, I heard you on a podcast. You're in Minneapolis. We're in Minneapolis. We want to come try it out. I'm like, sure, load in.
What did it take for you to establish this business? Because you need to have certain skills, certain knowledge to create your business, to run your business, run properly, expand, because now you have already more people, you have research going, so you are growing. How did you do all that? What did it take for you to do that?
I didn't sleep a lot, and I promote good sleep all the time, but I'm not always a good sleeper. The nice part is we really are an old company. Remember, we're 28 years old. So I've really solved a lot of problems in the early years, a decade or two, almost three ago. Like we solved websites and credit cards and banking, and we solved logos. We have a really good graphic guy, and who's brilliant. I'm so honored. What a great graphic guy I have. We solved so many problems years ago that the expansion really was really, I'm going to say, even it wasn't hard. It was just the process of going through it and being patient. That was a hard part for me, being patient. But like we had a patent attorney already from a previous product. And so we went back to a patent attorney and those processes were pretty laid out and convenient for us in the fact that we just had really good help and a payment plan. Okay, how much can I pay a month? When you negotiate with your attorney, like, do you take a payment plan? So all of these things really, I think it's years of business, but I also have to say, I had a lot of help. I had a lot of mentoring. I had a lot of people giving me really good advice, a couple bad pieces of advice, but that was fine. But you learn from that. And I think I'm really coachable. So like I really learned a lot and I learned fast.
Thank you so much. What are your future plans? Where are you going from here, from this point?
I have
Yes.
so many evil plans. Evil laugh, evil laugh. Yes. No, I have so many plans. And really, the plans really are, and I joke, but I don't. It really is world domination. Like, we really think we should be in the school districts. And we're actually teaming up with several major projects I'm about 30 days away from announcing it. So we'll update the podcast at the end. You'll be like, what? I'll tell you what the secret is in about 35 days. We're teaming up with some really major projects that conveniently started here in the Twin Cities and then just kind of keep expanding. And we really believe we could help all the populations. We want to be in community centers and we want to be at your workout gym. We want to be at your office. We want to be especially with children. I'm such, if it's a kid based project, I'm always very, very interested in that. We're going to be in with the military and we're going to be in with pro sports teams and all of those little pieces that just kind of trickle down through the system. But we're actually looking at senior housing, and fall prevention programs and being a part of all of these things. So really the company just kind of keeps growing and growing and growing. And I guess in a business sense, being careful that we don't overexpand too fast is, of course, a challenge. Yet so far, so far we're in good control. But manufacturing's keeping up with orders and everything's going great. But all of these little pieces are parts that I just can't stop thinking about. And it's all I care about. And how many people could we help? And the answer is millions, but could the answer be billions? And that's the challenge ahead of us.
What was the best career advice you have ever been given?
Best career advice. Oh, I've been given a lot. I recently got yelled at by a mentor because I said, "Oh man, it's so hot in the South. Like, oh, to go work with the special teams down in the hot." I was kind of complaining about it, and he yelled at me. He's like, "Don't you ever complain? Don't you ever complain about working with the top military people in the world?" And I'm like, "Yes, sir. I will not complain anymore about the heat." So my staff actually bought me some of those air conditioning neck things, those little neck air breeze fans. But all problems can be solved. So I guess that would probably be the answer is like all problems really can be solved. And really, and in business, unless they're on fire, it's okay. Yeah, like problems pop up and we just solve them all over the place and we just kind of keep moving on. The one other little piece of advice that I got over the years too was really kind of just looking at like how would you grade the event? Like we recently spoke at a big school district that wants to add in neuro labs. And at the end, we always, like, how'd you grade the event? Like A plus. It was good. Good. Move on. We don't try and dig through every little piece of the minutia, like we don't try and over examine things. How'd we do? C plus, let's try harder. Like, did that work? Not really. Let's do something different next time. But we don't really try and dig crazy deep. We try and just give it an overall score and keep trying to improve on the scores, but not nitpick every little piece just because that just seems quagmiry and we got to keep moving. So it's getting us moving forward in an organized manner.
Is there anything that you thought as of impossible maybe in the past, but you proved that it's possible? And how did you do that?
I thought it would be impossible to get into the military. I really, really did. I really thought that was just so much red tape and paperwork and processes and I really didn't think we'd ever work with military soldiers. And the interesting part of that is I am working on some contracts. It's coming. It's just a process too. But I was fascinated in the networking within the military that I worked with one Navy SEAL and suddenly I got to work with five Navy SEALs. And then those five Navy SEALs turned into eight. And then like one Marine turned into six Marines. And then the networking of the military and their care for each other has been amazing. So I've really been fascinated in the networking of people that I'm able to help one, but then they network me to so many more that I can help. It's an honor.
What advice would you give your past self when you were just developing this project?
So I do have a story. So I was a young, oh geez, I was even a mom by then. I have two kids, they're adults now, but I still had young children. And we had a product years and years ago that I tried to sell into the PT world. And I presented it one time. And the physical therapist said, "This is great and all, but you're not a physical therapist. You're not a doctor. So the answer is no." And I believed them and I stopped the project. Like one person said no to me and I believed them. And so I look back on that project because, to be honest, there's a product out there really similar to what we had those 25 years ago that I presented it. I'm like, that seems weird, but it still kind of oddly came forward. I, I feel like so many times people say no, and that's just not true. It's just not true. And so I've had a lot of people now as the years go by say no, and I don't even hear it. Like I just don't even hear it. So it's interesting to see how we can be influenced by one person that really that's not the case.
Mhm. So, what would be your recommendation how to react to rejections? Because I think that's a big problem, especially for young people. Yes, they hear no, or your project is not good, your grant wasn't funded, I don't think your project has a future. So, how to react to those no's?
Uh, they're out there for sure. There are, and the answer is, of course, I always talk about bob and weave. Try it again, mix it up, ask somebody else. I didn't understand the power of a mentor years ago. Like I just kind of was trying to go forward like a rhinoceros, on my own little, system. And so when I really got some great mentors around me that I think they really gave me that backing and that support that when even other people said no, that didn't bother me because I had these other people that I actually thought were greater than the person telling me no. So I'm like, well, then you're no Dr. Lee Sidebottom from NeuroTracker. He says yes. So the rest of you can shut up. you know, so I really did have some great people helping me and really my doctor, O'Brien. I really feel the power of mentoring is something that can really help you weave easier through the rejections.
Thank you. So, how to find good mentors? Where did you find them? How to select the best one? How do you do it?
Good one. I'll be honest, I'm a little lucky. Okay. So add in some luck. I just want to add in some luck. I really found him on LinkedIn. I really, really did. And this sounds weird. I almost avoided my family because your own family doesn't think you're a genius because they see you do stupid things. Okay. For sure. Okay. But my own family, who's been very supportive, very, very, very supportive, um, they're still different than someone outside your family mentoring you. So my husband, super, super good guy, super good guy. When I got to be a part of several NASA presentations, at one point he's sitting next to me and he's seeing the NASA presentation that really talked about the importance of vestibular training for astronauts and the trip to Mars. That really having them survive the trip to Mars really did require vestibular training. Otherwise, the weightlessness, they wouldn't be able to survive the reentry and the gravity and the brain. And my husband looked at me because the head neuroscientist is like, yeah, without Sheila Thelen's vestibular training, I don't think the crew can survive to Mars. And my husband turns and looks at me and he's like, wow, baby, I think you're a genius. But I'm like, baby, did it really take NASA to tell you that? Like, thanks, honey. So I do have a thing about like your family's your family, but your mentors outside of your family are probably a better bet.
Yes, that's a great example. Mm. Was there anything unexpected but exciting that you learned through those years of working with people and helping them to improve or regain their balance?
So I think the most exciting thing for me, because at first I started to spin the adults like I did the kids. Like I spun the kids like crazy. The kids all adapted, but the adults hated me. So I turned when it turned into a game of how little could I do. And that was a big change for me. Like a couple of my videos, my face in the video, they're spinning really slow. And my face, I just look so unimpressed in the video. Like I just look like, like I look so unimpressed because I'm so used to working with the really fast athletes. But when the game turned into how little could I do and still see improvements, um, that was like a really a big game changer for me because I realized like how slow could I go and still help people. And I didn't have to tilt a whirl the adults. And now the adults liked me again, because at first I was just going way too fast. And the adults were like, yeah, you're horrible. And so I got the adults back into like the zone. I actually talk about the hardest part to teach about the product is the person running it has to be sensitive because everyone's got a different threshold. And the trick is to get them to that threshold where they're stimulated, yet at the same time, not going past that to create the point of nausea. And that's being just really sensitive running the gear. I actually got to pro motocross. I have some gear at pro motocross, and I got there to train them, and they were already playing with it. But they had the gear like set to 100, and they were trying to throw each other off the gear. And I'm like, "What are you doing?" Like, no, we start at 30, and then we go to 35, and then we go to 40. Wait a minute, they're falling off at 40, back to 35. So, like, I really talk about being sensitive to running the gear was really a weird turning point and having to figure that out and getting other people to figure that out too, so that the training worked for everybody and not just the kids.
Thank you so much. And what advice can you give to your future self, let's say in maybe 5 or 10 years from now?
It's for sure the same answer for everything, and it's patience. Okay, patience, patience, patience. Because the fact I think that I'm not patient is actually part of the process too. They really talk about physical therapy and medical devices and industries. It really takes 17 years to bring a product forward. 17 years. Well, my mom will be dead by then. Your auntie with Parkinson's, it will not be alive 17 years from now. And I look at that and that just aggravates me because I find that answer unacceptable. We have over 1 million athletes already using this product. 1 million athletes worldwide. Let's go. Like there's plenty of data. There's 50,000 papers published. I have a whole thing on innovation does need to move forward for human health. And so my favorite line I always get is, well, do you have more research? And I always I try not to give them the face because I'm always like, what? How much more do you need? You know, really, give me a number. Is it 100,000? Then track this down in 3 more years. You know what I mean? Like, I like how many papers have to be written before we can agree that this vestibular system is your entire balance system? It's how you sleep at night. It's all these other pieces. And so I know the answer is patience. And I know it's me being patient, but it's also the coach in me that has to produce or you'll quit from me. So as a coach, from all these years of sports training, my athletes were great because I could produce great athletes and train them and develop them. And training and developing the human brain is all of our jobs. And so with that, if it's not producing, then like I don't understand how you still have a job. So as a high producing coach, I expect things to move, and that's not always the case, especially as I'm dealing with bigger and bigger corporations. But my big project, my secret project, had over 450 people involved in it. And it's so exciting. But I'm also like, move faster, move faster. And it didn't move faster. It is super frustrating. Yet at the same time, it's all still moving forward. So I know the answer is patience to my future self. But my lack of patience is also part of my future self too.
Thank you so much. Is there anything that maybe I haven't asked you yet and you would love me to ask you? So,
Oh, good.
what would that be?
Oh,
Yes.
you're so good. I don't know. Like we're a small, medium, large company that really thinks we can change the world and not sound like idiots for saying that. Like we really think we can change the world and help so many people. So we really are looking for partners and teaming up in any type of project that um, really deals with leadership, that leadership that can help us move forward. We're always grateful for help we can get. We are teaming up with so many different groups, and I actually had the really nice compliment from a gentleman in the gym world, like weightlifting. You know, talked about how all the gyms manufacturers really competed against each other and horribly, and he didn't say it in a kind way, where we really are the opposite. We really want to team up. We really want to work with more groups, more leadership. And I just think that our product is great, but when you team it up with NeuroTracker and Maverick and Body Tracks and Smart Fit and Dynavision and there's so many other great Reacts and there's so many great companies out there that if we all team up together to create great neuro rooms, what that could do for the education system, what that could do for children, what that could do for. There's some big papers that just came out on children and lacking balance because, of course, they look at their phones all day and their heads aren't moving enough. They're not moving as humans should. They're too much screen time, too much phone. I saw a video of a toddler taking a nap and the child was scrolling with his hand while sleeping. And I was just horrified. And so these papers are coming out on the connection between balance and anxiety. And so, like, no wonder these children have like crazy amounts of anxiety, debilitating because they're just not moving enough. So, with that, I feel like as a society, the more we can team up and the more we can work to help our children, much less our aging population, I think that's really important work. And that's part of my obsession and why I don't sleep at night, because the work really is all I can talk about. And my family's sick of me. I might need a new family soon. Someone adopt me because like this is all I can talk about, and it's all the importance of it is I just think really important to our society.
Thank you so much. And if somebody wants to learn more about your product, about what you do, and maybe even to purchase it, what is the best way to reach you or to find this information?
Absolutely. So I'm on LinkedIn, Sheila Thelen, and I'm all over LinkedIn. I love it there. I also our main website, of course, is spinyourbrain.com. So easy enough, spinyourbrain.com. Of course, all of our contact stuff is on there. I do a lot on mostly LinkedIn, but for sure we have an Instagram account for vestibular training services and also a Facebook page. I'll be honest, we're kind of into it, but not really. Mostly because I don't care what kids think. I don't care what a 12-year-old thinks. So that's part of where we like LinkedIn and the leadership of LinkedIn. We, you could, I just feel like you could track us down 1,000 different ways. But we're so honored to be a part of these amazing podcasts, and your voice really means so much to us in how more people can really change the world with us. So we're super grateful to contact you, to contact me. It would be great. Thank you.
Thank you very much to be our podcast guest and share your wonderful story and information about your amazing products with our listeners. Is there anything you would like to say as we're nearing the end of our podcast?
Boy, I can talk. So yeah, I just want to thank you, and I just want to thank everyone on podcasts and time and dedication and really changing their industries. I feel like there's so much leadership at so many different levels of all of these industries coming forward that I feel like all of us can change the world around us. And of course, it starts with us, but our leadership can really help everyone. And so my request to the upcoming leaders, this can be you, and there's already leaders established, but there's a whole batch coming up. And all of us can be leaders in helping those around us. So I invite you all to team up and to toughen up and come forward and be brave and go be awesome. Go fight forward. It matters.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you very much, Sheila. And we have neurotechnologists that are just getting into the field, and maybe some of them, and maybe many of them, will be interested in joining this field and doing this amazing work together. So, yeah.
Come help me. Oh, you're upcoming. I need some help. Just call me. I need some help. So it's been great. So
Wonderful.
thank you
Yeah.
again.
Thank you.
And I'm honored to be part of the industry. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sheila. All the best to you and your company and all your clients. Yes.
Thank you.
Dear Neurocareers podcast listeners, thank you for joining me and my incredible guests on this exciting journey into careers in neuroscience and neurotechnologies. I hope you've been inspired by the stories of those turning groundbreaking ideas into impactful realities. If you are looking for more guidance on advancing your neurocareer, book a free consultation with me, Dr. K, your podcast host and neurocareers coach at the Institute of Neuroapproaches, the only career service dedicated specifically to the needs of professionals in neurotech. Let's take the next step toward your neurocareer success together. In addition to free consultations, the Institute of Neuroapproaches offers a variety of services designed to help you thrive in neurotech. First, professional development planning. We help you create a tailored career development plan, identify knowledge gaps, and equip you with the tools needed to achieve your goals in neuroscience and neurotechnologies. Second, resume and cover letter review. Get expert feedback on how to craft documents that are specifically designed for job opportunities in the neurotech field. Third, interview preparation. Sharpen your interview skills through mock interviews and targeted feedback, including soft skills, hard skills in neurotech, BCIs, EG, MEG, live coding, and presentation preparation. 4. Networking and job search strategy. Learn how to effectively network and uncover job opportunities while standing out in the competitive neurotech job market. 5. Negotiation and salary advice. Receive expert guidance on negotiating salaries and benefits and determining a fair salary range for your desired position. All this and more can be found at www.neuroapproaches.org. Again, www.neuroapproaches.org. So, what are you waiting for? Let's navigate the path to success in the world of neurocareers together and turn the impossible into possible. We're looking forward to working with you.